In the heyday of CSU football, winning wasn't hoped for. It was expected, largely in part due to one man, Sonny Lubick. But he wouldn't tell you that. Today I get to show you my experience with Mr. Lubick. I learned a lot of things, but some of the most interesting things I learned had nothing to do with football. I learned about caring, one's character, love, the fight against cancer, and so much more. To put it simply, I learned about humanity. Sonny Lubick is one man in a big world, and he knows that. He doesn't believe he's any more important than you or me, and I think you'll see that throughout this video. He got people to buy in, he got people to care, and he showed them he cared. But how did he do that?
I don't know if I cared any more than anybody else, but as coaches, and I think it's probably part of one's DNA. That's just, one likes the people like a teacher, you like your students. Sometimes you have to get after them, sometimes you don't. But I guess probably to answer your question succinctly, if I could, I think just being yourself and caring about people and liking people, and I think eventually it comes across both ways. It's kind of a mutual respect for each of us.
It seems that throughout your career, you found a way to get people to buy into a collective mission and idea. I guess my question is, how do you find you get someone to really buy into something?
In this world, you don't do anything by yourself alone. You always have other people helping you. And then we had good players there and they bought into what we were selling was just, let's try to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. Then all of a sudden we won a couple games and you win a few more. And I guess it's from an old, they say losing is contagious, winning is contagious. Yeah. But you were correct that the players cared for one another, the coaches, we all cared about each other. And once they found that confidence that they were good enough, that we could win some games, I think it just took off from there. I don't know if there was any magic. It was just, as you said, kind of caring for each other, putting the other people's needs, having good players and good coaches.
And I mean, in the end, it did lead to winning, and I think that's what any coach would hope for.
Right.
You know, on that topic, you found a way to win, and CSU found a way to win. That they did. In 1994, CSU traveled down to Tucson, Arizona to take on the 6th-ranked Wildcats, known for their Desert Swarm defense. The Wildcats were thought by many to be favorites for the national championship that year, but Lubick and the Rams, led by future NFL players Sean Moran and Brady Smith, had a different plan in mind after hopping out to a 5-0 start on the season. After a fumble return for a touchdown, CSU forced an upset in a 21-16 victory. You have to wonder, what in the heck was the message for that game?
The selling point was that nobody believes that we can win. And so, I don't know, kids and maybe the players, I really believe we sold it to them.
Yeah.
But usually, I mean, every coach every Saturday says, we can win this game, and deep you're like, we're not going to beat Michigan or Ohio State. At that time, Arizona was as good as anybody in the nation. But again, it was a matter of a group of players and coaches with a belief. I don't know how much, if it was all 100% by everybody. I know myself, I went, oh man, what the heck are we going down there for? And but I did look at our team. If things went right for us, we might have a chance, and so be it. I guess the message really was, nobody believes. There's not a person in town. You could go bet anybody if you're a betting man. Any pundit, nobody on ESPN, anybody thought that CSU would have a chance. I'm sure they said it'd be a 3-touchdown difference, at least that, in favor of Arizona. But the players believed it, and once you get in the game and a couple good things happen, then all of a sudden you could feel the confidence building on the sideline as each unit would come off the field, the other one would go on. You could feel that confidence building, and even then, you know, we've all seen games every Saturday where underdogs put up a great fight and go everything, but end up losing at the end. But we were fortunate enough and good enough and believed enough to hang on and win the game, which was, that may have, I know I see you did a lot of work on it, that may have turned that whole tide around for several years. That one game could change everything, and it did for quite a while for CSU.
What you might not know about Sonny Lubick is that he spent time as a high school football coach in the beginning of his career. Being a youth coach myself, I was really curious about what he had to say about athletes who were struggling for playing time, the kind who felt like maybe they weren't being as respected as they should be.
A lot of the players go through, they think they should be playing more, and I know that coaches, they want to win the game. They're going to play the best player. And my advice is to hang in there. And that's easy to say because I know their patience is in short supply in this day and age. But you have to have a little patience. You have to just continue to work, and you have to trust in your coaches. And if you lose the trust in your coaches, then I don't know what to say, but I do know that most coaches, they're going to try to be as fair as they can be and play the people. And sometimes, I can't tell you how many times I told a young man, for sure you're going to be playing a lot this week, and then circumstances turned out where he didn't get any playing time. And you can only do that once or twice before they lose faith. But if they really believe you, they'll hang in there with you. But so I would say just have to be patient and continue to work hard and be a team player. And I know that things will work out in the end for you.
Along with that, I would say throughout my time as a player, coach, and fan, I've constantly seen coaches judge a player by their height alone, and I think that's especially true in football. I'm curious, what's the right path there for a player who believes their coach is judging them because of their height, as in they're too short to play, you know? Because maybe not so much in college and the professional, you know, NFL and whatnot, but from my experience, from what I've watched in middle school and high school, I feel like I've watched a lot of coaches look to the tall player as to maybe the short player. So really, I guess I'm just curious, what's your advice to someone who believes their height is the issue?
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't worry about it. And I know that maybe there are people out there just too small to play. Maybe, but if that one has the heart, and I know it sounds trite, and you have the desire, and you work at it, the coach will find a place for you. You can return punts, return kicks, do whatever. Yeah, I'd say it might be natural. The coach look at a guy, he'd be a nice 6'2", 6'3" defensive end. Well, then all of a sudden, here's a guy 5'10" that comes on. He's quicker, maybe tougher, and does things. So there's a place. There's a place for everybody, because everybody on the team is not 6'4". There, you look around in the NFL, and there's wide receivers out there, 5'8", 5'10", catching balls and scoring touchdowns. There are return guys. There are people that run down on special teams. There is a place for everybody. Obviously, if you're 5'10" and 180 pounds, you're not going to play any offensive line. But hopefully you have some others. Even if you're not the fastest guy, if you're strong enough, tough enough, there's plays. Coaches are looking for to put people in the game. They can't play the same guy the whole darn game. They need a lot of players to fill in. And that's one good thing about football, and I guess baseball, anything. There's different sizes out there.
Yeah.
There's a place for you.
Yeah, definitely. Would you say maybe a player is really, you know, they're out there practicing every day, you know, they're getting third team reps, not very much, standing around a lot. Is it fair of a player to go to their coach and say, let me prove something to you, coach? Is that something a player should do, or do you believe the player should keep their head down and just keep at it and stay patient?
No, I think it's both. I'd admire a player to come up and say, Coach, just give me a chance.
Yeah.
And you might say, well, we got this other. The coach, they see everything you do out there in the field, and the longer you're there, they see things. But yeah, I think it's very positive to go talk to your coach in a civil manner, a good manner. Say, Coach, I know I can help this team. I love that when players did that. I'd go in and tell them, we got to find a place for this guy. Get him on the field. Let's see. What that tells me is this kid wants to play so darn bad. He'll do whatever it takes. And I think it's great. And I would say as coaches, we all make mistakes. We look at this, we look at size, but the more you're together, then you find out. And I still think that desire, that want to, we'll find a place to put you in the ball game.
And I think at the end of the day, it's all just getting through adversity, continuing through that.
Right, like anything in classroom, this guy's supposed to be the smartest guy here. Somebody has desire, works hard. It all comes down to who's working the hardest.
Yeah.
And a team player. You win a lot of games with guys like that. You might be a little undersized. How tough? When I say toughness, I don't know. It's hard to define it, but being there every day, working hard, doing the thing, doing a little extra. That's all. Who's gonna out tough the other guy? That's what it comes down to.
When we were on the topic of adversity, I found it to be a good time to ask Sonny Lubick about his firing from Montana State. And I urge you to pay attention to his answer because I find it inspiring and applicable to more than just coaching, but to life in general as well.
Yeah, it's hard anytime, you get fired, you lose a job, and all the coaches see that's hard. It knocks you down a few pegs. You lose your confidence for a little bit, but then, as you talk to your players, you got to get up and keep going. And that's what we always coach. You keep going. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. And the whole thing I heard in high school is you got to start over. And it's not easy. It's hard, but that's what life is not a straight line of success. There's dips and curves and everything. And the people who are probably the happiest, I don't even like to use the term success because it depends how anyone defines it, but I say the happiest and the most satisfied are those who you get knocked down, you get back up and you achieve. It makes you a better person.
One of the things I appreciated most in my time with Sonny is that he was frank and honest with me. He wasn't feeding me answers the university would want, I would want, or anything that would uphold his coaching legacy. Now, you talked about Arizona, they were Sports Illustrated's #1 team the year before. You were the Sports Illustrated head coach of the year. Did that really mean anything to you, or was it just, okay, this is nice, but I'm just here to coach?
Yeah, well, be honest, it was meaningful. It seems like it's more meaningful now than it was then.
Yeah.
Because people, just like you say, people would always introduce you Sports Illustrated Coach of the Year, 94. And it means more now that people would recognize you. They're recognizing it as a good team and some great coaches, and all of us take some pride in that. But at the time, I think you were correct. You didn't think of that, In fact, I don't think that came out until almost a year was over. So we played 6 or 7 games after that game, and we had some other big wins during that season. But again, it was very, very humbling. At the same time, an honor to be recognized, to have our school, university, our school recognized, and indeed, as you said, the town, for all of a sudden, the stadium, which was maybe at the most 3/4 full, now we were almost selling it out after that. And you always wonder, how do you keep this thing going? That was the next challenge we had.
And, you know, despite all of that, it seems that it's always been more than football for you. It's about family, something that you've cherished throughout your life and your entire coaching career. It seems to me that you valued family over football. Could you walk us through that balance?
Yeah, well, I think you might be right, but I would say, again, try to be as honest, frank as I can. When you're in the middle of the season and you're getting ready for a game on Saturday, football seems to be the focus for you. But I was very fortunate to have a great family with my wife, of course, who was extremely supportive and sacrificed so much by, a few moves that we had.
When you have a real loving family, you know how important that is. Throughout our interview, Sonny was constantly speaking highly of others, but when he talked about his family, you could really see how much he cared about them and how thankful he was for them.
Yeah, the family, my personal family, could not have been any more supportive and kind and good. And I know they went through, they probably, and speaking for all the families, the wives, and they go through more sacrifices we coaches do. We come up here and we love what we're doing. We're in the office working, planning, strategizing, getting ready for the next game. We're there doing all the hard stuff behind the scenes at home and still keeping everything together. And of course, any coach will tell you that. And there should be awards for the wives and the families more than they are for the coaches.
Like you said, your family, especially your wife, were incredibly supportive throughout your entire career. I wonder, seeing that, how did it affect your perspective as a coach, and maybe more so as a role model to your players? Because I would say when you have a good support group behind you, you're able to support other people better, really.
Well, that's exactly right. You hit it. You said it better than I would ever say it. Yeah, when you have great support at home, and as I mentioned previously, the sacrifice that the people at home do, especially my wife Carol, Joe, and I could talk about all the other wives too, did the same. When your husbands are putting in 14-hour days, easily 14-hour days, Sunday through Thursday anyway, and not home, and sometimes don't see your kids because you come home, it's 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, the children are already in bed. You get up and leave at 6:37 in the morning. You don't see them. And sometimes you forget about that. We're doing our job, but the wives are home. They're keeping the family together. They're the ones making sure the kids are off to school. They're in school. They're at their dental appointments, their doctor's appointments. They take them to all their extracurricular activities. And we're kind of, in some ways, we got the easy part. We're at our job doing something that we love. They're doing what they love, but they don't get any recognition for it. And so I think that truly is something. But you hit it, when you have great support at home, that makes the job here in your office much easier and a lot better.
Lubick and his wife really valued their time with family. So they made it a goal to maximize his staff's time with their family in their already so limited schedule.
It was with my wife, with Carol Joe's help, that maybe more with her telling me what to do and her help, we always had our family. Wherever we went, we tried to have the families there. And we always wanted the children there, no matter what. I mean, they were always welcome up here at the office. Family were here, because I realized that so many of the assistant coaches didn't get a chance to see their children all the time. We tried to make time for them to go watch their children play on a Friday afternoon, or if they have something going on, a concert or something during the week. but I know they felt guilty. They didn't want to leave the office when people are working in there. But I really believe that as we matured along, that they did have time. I don't think there's once where one would ever say, you can't go to this, see your children, you got to be here. When it's all said and done, it's your family and your faith, and then football, but sometimes you get them out of order. I'm not going to say I was perfect, and I don't claim to ever say that. But when I look back at it now, family, faith, and football should be the last time, and sometimes we forget that.
Love is a beautiful thing. It keeps us going. But how do we make one another feel loved?
That is it's a pretty simple thing, but it's a great question. What we've talked about a little bit earlier is genuinely caring for people. If they know, I had an old statement, and it's certainly not my statement. I think I got this from Don Shula's book, somewhere along the lines. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And our players are best. You can't talk about it. It's got to come across as genuine, as authentic. And I think as time went on, again, not saying that we as a coaching staff are perfect or better in this regard than anyone else, but as you're with each other and you talked about the culture, players could see that. Sure, would we get upset when things went wrong? Did coaches get upset if you didn't do something right? And none of us do things right all the time. We all make mistakes. But I think over a period of culture was, that the coaches here, we do care about you. Their needs were first. Put their needs first. Always err on the side of the player. That was one of our mottos. And we had to not talk about it, had to just show we care by our everyday small little actions, and the players buy in. They buy in. You could get mad. You could do whatever you had to do to try to straighten them out. And even when coaches make a mistake, the players were very forgiving because they know you really cared about them. And that, as you said, that's the love part. They could feel it. We did have that, but it's hard talking about that because most of the time, every interview you see, coaches all talk about, we got this going, we got that love, but do you really have it? And if you go through tough times, that carried, and just like a family, they'll be there. They'll be there for you. If there was something that's haywire, then they're not going to be there.
A long while back, I played recreational basketball in Fort Collins. My Newts, which is my granddad in Italian, was always at every one of me and my brother's sports games growing up.
It's given to Jake. Jake is running. Looks like he's going to make a break for us. Go, Jake. Go, Jake. That's it. Got about 10, 20 yards on that play.
One year in the playoffs, I happened to be in the same division as Sonny Lubick's grandkids, and my parents got this picture. That would be my Newts and, well, Sonny Lubick, who decided to watch his grandkids play as well. Fast forward 6 or so years, and my family was in a much different situation. My Newts, Stephen and Selma, was diagnosed with pancreas cancer, and a couple months later, he passed away. It was life-altering, but it gave my life a personal connection to cancer, a connection that both Sonny and I share. Heading back to 2006, the Lubick family got hit with the tough news that Mark, the son of Carol Jo and Sonny, had rhabdomyosarcoma cancer. Thankfully, through tough times, he recovered. It helped spark a flame that would light off a wildfire of love and support in the community, specifically through their foundation, RamStrength, which helps provide support to those battling cancer. I found this interview to be a chance at a deeper conversation, something less about Lubick himself and maybe more so on a person who has wisdom that can be shared with others. When my Newts was diagnosed with pancreas cancer, what kept us all going was love. And when he passed, it was that love he taught us that really pushed us forward onto the next chapter of our lives. When your son Mark was diagnosed with rhabdomyosarcoma cancer, I mean, it surely hit your family hard. And now, the fight against cancer with RamStrength is a huge part of your life. How did that diagnosis affect your life path and maybe more generally, your perspective on life as a whole?
That was probably one of the most difficult times in our lifetime, both Carol Jo and I and our family, Matt and Michelle. That was a very, very difficult time, as anyone who has gone through an illness, which most families have, and then it reveals some things. And as you said, Alec, it is strength, love, everything else becomes secondary. Nothing matters except the health of your family. And I think maybe we really learn about I won't say a new perspective, but it brings life into perspective. At that, I also had a coach on the staff at that time, Danny Hammerschmidt, whose wife was battling a severe cancer also, and with Mark, that was a very, very difficult time. But the players rallied around, the coaches rallied around, and all of us knew. I think you don't have to really talk about it. We all know there's something more important than winning a football game. Well, that's what you're here for. So, yeah, it did change my life. I hope it did for the better, and I think it changed our team. And I think the key elements, ingredient, compassion for one another, caring. But I could see the players really cared about our family and cared about Coach Hammerschmidt and his wife and everything. So it was tough times. I think it made us stronger, and I think it brought out the real compassion and love that everyone had for one another.
I would be doing a disservice not to mention Tim Rickett or my Aunt Julie. Tim was an amazing person and someone you were incredibly lucky to know. He was a trainer and he uplifted people despite fighting cancer and undergoing chemotherapy. He would literally win lifting competitions and break records despite undergoing all of that. After 11 years, some would say he lost his battle to cancer, but I think many would say he showed cancer who was boss. He won, and by a lot. He defined his life, not cancer. Well, I'm here today because of our connection with cancer and the difficult times it brings. My aunt's late husband was Tim Rickett, who during his 11-year battle was a volunteer and board member with RamStrength. And I'm so grateful to be here today because it really is true. I wouldn't be here interviewing you if it wasn't for him. What does the fight and battle against cancer mean to you?
I'd like to go to Tim. What a wonderful inspiration he was to all of us. And as I go along for everybody, is that after Mark, our son, battled cancer there, then our daughter Michelle, she came up and started a foundation called RamStrength, which gives money. She raised a lot of, I won't say she and all of her board and a lot of people in this community volunteered. I think it's been going on for about 14 or 15 years now. They've raised over, probably want to say in the 3-4 million, and give scholarships to maybe 5 or 6 students a year to Colorado State who have battled cancer or are battling cancer. Helps the people in northern Colorado with their basic needs. How can you make a car payment? How do you make this payment, etc. So I'm so proud of Michelle and Carol Jo, our wife, our family, for starting that, and all of the people who volunteered. And that, I guess, what you said, there's something great that came out of Mark's diagnosis, and something great is still going on today, 15 years later, it's still going on. She is still, and our foundation is still helping many people and all the funds that are raised go directly to the people here in northern Colorado.
Yeah.
Doesn't go anywhere else. So to me, that's one of the, you look back, that's a great foundation. And not just because the people all jumped in to help out, and there's people that have behind the scenes who have done so much work and worked at it. And Tim was a volunteer, as you said. And I remember Tim when I was coaching here at U Stadium. He came up and raised, I don't know how much money he raised, but he challenged that he would sit in every seat in U Stadium. And I don't know how long it took him. I think it maybe took him maybe a week. I don't know, but I went up there and watched him, and he's going through each seat, get up, and stand. 30,000, I guess about close to 30,000 seats sat in each one. And that's just one of the things, and a big thing that just helped the culture and brought a lot of awareness to RamStrength, the foundation, that he was a real instrumental part. And they're still talking about right now in the RamStrength, it's be a Tim, be like Tim. That's strong, courageous. And I remember Tim at the end, even when he was right with maybe less than a year to live or 6 months, he was still out competing in weightlifting contests and winning them. So I don't know how you do that.
When all was said and done, Sonny and I thanked each other and we walked our separate ways. It was an amazing experience for me, and I truly got to fulfill some of my inner child. I also took some wisdom with me, and I hope you did too. Thank you to Sonny for an absolutely amazing experience, my producer Abdulaziz, and to all of you for watching yet another video. Goodbye, guys.
They come with it. Lowe's football. Sean Moran has it. Sean Moran to the 40 is going to win the race. Oh my, what a play. Rams touchdown. You talk about a backbreaker. Sean Moran has scored for Colorado State. Sonny Lubick told me last night privately, he said, Drew, I don't know how we're going to do. I think the kids believe they can win, but I don't know how.